Now, let's welcome our hosts, Jay Cherish and Dame Deity. This is Millennial Intent, Conversations That Matter.
Content warning. This topic may be sensitive to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Do you live here? Yeah. You do? Papa. I don't believe that.
What?
I don't believe that.
So where are you going?
Rory, come on. Rory, come on. Help! Help!
Did someone come here?
That was my wife. She got somebody chased.
Who chased her?
She said somebody in a silver truck.
A gray truck, and he came around the corner, and I was in the street, and so I come up, and I just have my kids, and so I'm like gonna pretend that I'm coming home, and so I pull up and I start walking to your back gate, and he stops here and he goes, "Are you looking for someone?" And I said, "Nope," and then he sat here, and I was like, "I need to get in."
Well, that's my husband. That's why he lives here. Yeah. He lives here. So he came in and he said there's a lady screaming, and I'm like, that's...
She got all worried that she...
I'm scared the crap out of me.
How?
I'm so sorry.
How did he scare you, though?
I just seen her in the driveway and I was like, are you looking for somebody?
Well, you just have to understand my point of view. Being by myself with two kids, I just saw a car coming, and so I was like, oh, it scared me, and so I just pulled up here, and I kept thinking, this could be...
The white woman who accused Emmett Till of making advances towards her has died. 14-year-old Emmett Till was kidnapped and brutally murdered by Bryant's then-husband and his half-brother in Mississippi in 1955 over the allegation. The two men were acquitted in his killing by an all-white jury, but later confessed in an interview. The case gained national attention after Emmett Till's mother allowed Jet magazine to take and publish photos of her son's mutilated body in an open casket. The horrific image shocked the nation and served as the catalyst for the civil rights movement. Years after Till's death, Dunham admitted to fabricating parts of her story, although she was never charged with a crime.
On May 30th, 1921, the mob came to Greenwood.
This white woman is in an elevator, and this black teenager allegedly whistles at her or talks to her. He is taken to jail. A mob gathers of whites and blacks, and blacks in Tulsa are armed. They take their Second Amendment rights seriously, and they come with guns. And this is a threat. Someone fires into the crowd, and the riot is born.
In today's discussion, we'll focus on the weaponization of white tears and the historical and ongoing impact of false accusations made by white women against Black men. These false accusations have historically fueled racial oppression, justified violence, and contributed to systematic injustices that persist into society today. Tongue twisters. If anyone believes this is a fallacy, consider the historical patterns of such incidents, including the infamous murder of Emmett Till, the Tulsa Massacre, and the Rosewood Massacre, the latter in which over 200 white men attacked the Black community of Rosewood, a small town in Florida, which led to the deaths of more than 30 Black women, men, and children. These events show a disturbing pattern where the past seems to predict the future. Today, we are witnessing a troubling reoccurrence of the behavior, highlighting an ongoing relevance of these historical injustices. Now, as we are in 2025, it seems that some things never change. Let's get into it.
Oh, this is deep right here.
Yeah.
And this has been going on for centuries. And I want to go ahead and get into the video. And then I know we have a lot to unpack today, but clearly from her perspective, maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding. She misconstrued. I don't know. Maybe she was generally scared for her safety. You know, maybe I know she was running. Maybe she was generally scared and she didn't know what to do. And she was in a dark. I try to give everyone the reasonable doubt, you know?
So scared she went for a walk at night without her husband, with
Exactly.
her baby.
And
Yeah.
I thought about that. I mean, well, she must, to be at night, she must thought it was a good neighborhood. She must have she must have felt safe enough to walk outside. Cause that was my first thing. Like, for one, if I'm scared or if I'm leery about something, I'm
Right.
not going to be walking with my kid in the middle of the night with no protection. That's just me. I'm not going to put myself in harm's way at all. Period. At all. I'm not doing it. So I didn't see that point, but maybe the neighborhood was so safe, she felt that, you know, she haven't seen a lot of people of color in her neighborhood.
I mean, but that's weird though, because when she knocked, I mean, the thing is though, I think it clearly there was some assumption being made, because when she knocked on the door and the Black woman came out, she didn't run from her. So, and then I think what was funny is that there was enough time for the man that she accused to come out of his home. So what were you doing for that 4 or 5 minutes that you could have ran in your house?
Exactly. But I'm just thinking, why did she feel that when he said that he lived there, why did she feel that that was a lie?
Well,
Like, that's what,
yeah.
like, she was like, no, she's like, what are you doing? And he was like, I live here. No, you don't. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And why would you not believe that? And then when he came out and confronted her, because if he didn't come out the door when his wife was talking, I would have let her go on. Like, I wouldn't have said anything else. The wife didn't give her enough. She was like, well, that's my husband. No, girl, let her talk.
Right.
Let her talk, because she did.
Let her hang herself, as the old folks like to say.
Somebody was chasing her, but clearly nobody was chasing her.
Clearly, because the chaser had enough time to go into his residence and sit on the couch.
And I see a whole bunch of things going on the internet to say, like, oh, maybe he is in the wrong because he put it out there. She was apologetic. She cried. It is what it is. It's over and it's done.
They always cry.
Keep it going? And I think that's the issue, is that the sad part is, and I'm not saying this is all white women, but the Karens, they know.
We're not talking about all white women. We know who we talking about. They know.
Karens are the women that know that their tears can be used as weapon. That's
exactly
the issue.
Yeah.
And they use their tears as manipulation to pursue a false narrative and to gain sympathy, and they try to control the situation. And that's what the issue is. It's like, you use your weapon because, you know, I saw this one clip that there was this guy in the park and he had a dog. Don't quote me on the exact event, but she was like, I don't want your dog here. And she was like, I'm calling the police. And he was like, call him. And he was like, well, I'm white. That's what she said. I'm white and I'm going to cry. And she picked up the phone. She called 911 and he started recording her. And she was like, this Black man is attacking me and I'm a white woman. And he's just laughing and he's recording. And then when the officer came and she was like, he's getting me. And she was making up all this stuff. And then the first thing is, when this is the issue. When they got out there, your words mean nothing compared to her tears. It was like the person was automatically guilty and he couldn't even explain. If he didn't record it and had the video on his phone, he probably would have got arrested. And that's the same thing for this instance with the guy. If this wasn't on video, okay, what if it would have escalated and her husband pulled out a gun or something? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
You don't know. And the thing about it, I think there should be some type of consequences if you knowingly use your tears as weapons.
Girl, and they're known for it. Like, literally, when they cry, whole murders happen. And people like to go, oh, that's the past. But we're telling you instances where it's continuing on. Like, this is a ongoing issue where, you know, somebody of color is using this to get people in trouble and thrown in jail. And I don't think that's fair. It's a shame that if it wasn't for cell phones, so many people would be in jail. Like, it's insane. You basically have to carry a phone to prove your innocence, because automatically your status or your color just means that you're guilty.
Yes. And the thing about it, it's not just any woman's tears, because a Black woman could cry and they mean nothing. That's what the issue is. anybody else is serious, and they know that because people are more.
She's just a liar.
Yes, more sympathy toward women that are not of color, and that's just a fact.
Right.
And it's just sad because just from historical events, and I remember the story, we know this, the Emmett Till, and you said this one earlier, that how the lady, and it wasn't even that he did anything. Karen Bryant falsely accused him of just whistling at her or whatever it was, or saying something to her, and then they lynched him.
Right.
A 14-year-old boy.
Right. Even if he didn't whistle, but even if he did, he was 14. And I believe she was 19 at the time?
Yeah, but she lied. Is the fact
No,
that
I'm not saying we know she lied because she later said she lied about it. But my issue is, what is a 14-year-old going to do to you? Like, to grown men. A group of grown men attack this child, regardless of how you cut it. Whether he said anything or you, but it's the fact that this was a Black child is why they went after this kid.
And his life didn't mean anything. That's and the thing that is, like, a lot of people go, oh, that was so long ago. That was 1955. I'm pretty sure you know somebody, your grandma, your uncle, your cousin, that was born in 1955.
Yeah.
1955.
Yeah. And it's crazy that we're still dealing with, they tell you, oh, well, you need to forget about the past. You need to stop bringing up, like, segregation. You need to start. Slavery was 400 years ago. Correct. Where the change was still on, that was 400 years ago. But you made sure to put the change in the laws. You made sure to basically put the chains into every other thing. So basically, when you go and you work, there is a prejudice of who to look at. Because even when you think about it, when we got into the workforce, you're taught to look at certain people a certain way.
Mm-hmm. And
you start looking at your own people a certain way. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. Why am I thinking that towards these people when it's like, okay, well, these type of people steal. But in truth, it's usually the middle class white people that do the stealing. And they do more of the stealing because they know they're going to get away with it. Like, we're not saying that Black people don't steal. Everybody, every race steals. We're not saying that. But the stereotype is to only look at one type of person. And I have seen it to where they will let the other people go and they'll go after the Black people for $5. Or $50, or you trespass them. But I mean, because we don't lose anything anyway. They'll come back. But they just walked out. You just sent this person to jail with a felony, or you trespassed this person, but this person sold $200 worth of beer and you didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's still that, oh, well, eventually they'll come back and they'll spend the money. I mean, I've literally worked and I've seen this and I've had this said to me. So it's not, oh, you're just making that up. No, I've lived it. I've seen it. I've been taught to think that way. And I had to go, well, that's not who I see putting all the stuff under their cart, though. Like I said, I've seen all colors and walks steal, but the way you're making people only look at one demographic is the issue. And it's still inbred into the system to do that way.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's underlying racism. And they pick out these instances because they want to perpetuate their stereotype against a certain race, because that's how you feel already. Right. You find these cases, but generally there's more white collar crime in America than regular low class crime. I'm just saying, just in general. And the thing about it is, I was talking to this young lady, and like say she was working at the courthouse. She's a friend of mine. And she was just like, I just feel uncomfortable when the Black men come into the office. And then I was like, asked her, why is that? Like, has she been attacked? I genuinely want to know. And she was just like, they're just thugs. Or people, they look like, they have that type. And I said, well, what is that type? What does a thug look like?
Right.
What does a criminal look like?
Right.
And then I remember one time I was, I had a criminology major, and I was, picking majors one time. in one of the case study we were doing, or just, I was doing policeization. Oh my goodness, don't let me quote me on the saying, but we were doing like cases on, on people, and most of the target cases are just, even the idea we're all black. We're black people, we're black criminals. There were no, so when you're constantly studying this information and then you're going out in the street, when you're looking, because the targets they're putting up were black people or black men, or that were big or heavy set or dark, really dark and grudgy looking, or if they use Latinos, it was that had that stereotype that they looked all the same. It was, and I was just thinking, but nobody else does crime. And if you're training a police officer in this way, when they go out to the field, that's what their idea of criminal activities. And the thing about it, when you're policing, you're not policing with a just mind.
Yeah,
You're going
absolutely.
after, you're using your personal bias
Yeah.
because what you see, instead of looking at everyone as individuals. Because I saw the time that these kids were getting arrested, and I've seen this in my face. There was different black kids. There's a white kids. I was with a white group, and the police came up, and these kids were actually doing something bad, but the idea that they were young, innocent college students, they gave them the opportunity. The black kids were automatically deemed, when they saw them, as doing
automatically
something wrong.
demonized. Yeah.
And they weren't. Excuse me. And that's the thing. You have to, if this is the way you're thinking, especially if you're going to public service, you can't take your personal bias, or just even women. If you know that when you're going out there, not every black man or big built person is a criminal.
Exactly.
And that's just it.
Right. Like, my thing is, I read a lot of like comments. I don't ever say anything because I just don't. But I look at other people's comments, and white people love to go, well, black people are responsible for XYZ amount of crime, and they're the smallest demographic. X amount of crime against who? Themselves, businesses, whatever. But it's not against you. One thing about it is, black people may shoot at each other. Black people may steal. I'm not saying that they don't. Black people be doing some hooligan stuff. But when your kids go on a rampage and kill 23 kids, every time when white kids go on a rampage, whole schools die. But you guys never, that's an isolated incident. It's not an isolated incident. That's the problem. But you never discuss your own issues. I don't see mass shootings by black people unless they're shooting at their own people. I'm just being realistic. They're not going after now. There are children that get in the crosshair or whatever gang issues that going through. I'm not condoning that. Obviously, that's gang violence. Those people need to be in jail. Lock them up. Throw away the key. I don't care.
But
my thing is, like, when you're looking at black people as the smallest demographic, saying they're doing all these crimes. But when you look at the crimes that your own community commits, they're so different. They're so egregious to a whole different account.
Exactly.
Like, I'm just now seeing black people start, like, I don't know what it is. Black people decide they want to join the ranks of serial killers and stuff like that. Because that was just not really, that wasn't a thing too much. I'm not saying that they didn't exist. We always know that there's, black, white, whatever serial killers in the community. But now all of a sudden there's this surgence of them coming up. But it mind boggles me that nobody looks at their own community, but you're quick to pass your finger off at somebody else. I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I didn't want, you've made some excellent points. And I think the key thing you said is their children. And when they're looking at society, there's more, when it's your kid, it's like, they make a mistake. They're just kids. It's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to throw the book at them. But when it's somebody else's kid that doesn't look like yours, you're ready to throw them away. It's not looked at the same. It's not their kids. They made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
They're looked at, okay, this person is deemed forever. Like it's no. But the thing about it, the stereotypes and the behaviors, and even if someone's innocent, this is where I have an issue with it. even if you have an issue with somebody, instead of using your race as a weapon, saying that I just want to prove myself wrong or right because I know that the law is going to come and the law is on my side.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take advantage of that. I feel that there needs to be some kind of accountability. There needs to be something put in the laws that somebody can't make a false police report. Anybody.
Yeah. And if
Just
you're
because,
found without a shadow of a doubt that you did not tell the truth.
but they know, but the fact that they lie, and they can lie with a straight face and it's nothing.
Yeah. No
And that
repercussion.
your lie is bigger than my truth. That's the issue.
So that brings me to, now this is a trigger warning because this is about a case. I watched this documentary last night. So if you have any issues with like sexual abuse or anything, you could probably tune out, but I'm not going to go into detail. But I watched a documentary last night called Tell Them You Love Me. And it was about a mentally handicapped Black young man. I think he's about 40 odd years old now. I'm not going to put his name, but the documentary is Tell You Love Me, and it's on Netflix. And I don't want to give the abuser too much airtime. So if you want more information, just Google that information. Anyway, the point is the woman was a white woman, like a psychologist that specialized in communicative communication with the disabled, right? She had met this Black family, the son was getting his PhD and decided that he wanted to go learn how he could, because he had a disabled brother. He was born with cerebral palsy. And he wanted to see how he could communicate, with his brother. And this woman was doing this groundbreaking, research saying that they found out that, disabled people just learn differently if they're given the ability to talk, so they would give them tablets and let them speak to each other and, whatever the case may be, or let them speak and let them write, and how the lady went on to basically, one of the test subjects went on to college. And even though she wasn't able to talk normally, quote unquote, she was still able to communicate in her own way and turned out was an extremely brilliant person. So this Black mother and her two sons, the son being, they called him the man or whatever it was. The woman called him, his name was Derek. The woman called him that. She said that after a while, he was so, smart to her, whatever the case may be, that this was, she was trying to get him to live on his own. Now, remember, these people had taken this young man to various doctors, various experts, and they had deemed that he barely had the cognitive ability of a 6 to 12-month-old. Like, he could communicate, but only via like pointing at something or hitting something, or that was his way of communication. Like, he was there, but he wasn't, his cognitive ability is still very low. So this woman had access to this man who she says was helping. And then they found out she came to the family and she was like, well, we're in love. And they kind of looked at her like, what do you mean you're in love with who, basically? Mm-hmm. Like your son. And they're looking at her like, how? He can barely talk. Like, you're saying this man is doing all this and we don't see any of this. Mm-hmm. So, they were trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. And she's like, he wants to leave, she's like, I'm going to leave my husband. I have 2 kids. I'm in love with
she had a whole family? Oh, wow.
Yeah, girl, she had a whole family. She was already married to a man of color.
Oh, okay.
And, so she wanted to leave him for the handicap, the man with the cerebral palsy. So the thing is, through all of that, they decided the family was like, there's just no way. Like, we're going to press charges. Like, this woman did something to this man. So through all of this, the whole interview, you can clearly see that they take the side of this woman. Like that, the music changes when she comes on. It's made light of. It's very, like, all of it just looks very wistful. She's smiling. She just looks like a regular, white woman. It's no skin out. She said that I have no problem telling the story or people knowing what I did because, this was mutual, this was consensual. The mother was still on her side. The other people, now these are not, by far, regardless of what her issue is, because clearly there's a mental instability in her, she's still a very smart person. So this is a person with doctorals. The mother has doctorals. The other expert witness that they had, or friend there, was like doctorals, even though she has something called a dystonia, something like that. So it works differently with her speech. She has issues communicating, but she's still extremely smart. Like, this woman is exactly what they're talking about. None of these people, even though it was very clear. So they called in an expert witness, a white guy. And I'm only using that because of the whole context, because this was even out of one of the expert witnesses' mouth. She said there were 3 different issues. The issue was, this was a person with disability or something like that, she said. And the issue was, this was a race issue. And it was one other thing. I couldn't remember what she was saying, but, and basically that this woman was asserting that she knew more than the mother. But even then, the expert witness was called in to reaffirm that there was no way, shape, or form that this man could have a consensual conversation. There's no way that he was communicating in the way that this woman was elaborating, that all of this was falsified. And even through all of that, no one called this woman an abuser. She got sentenced to 12 years originally. And then she appealed and she got off with like 2 years and filed for a lesser charge. They found marks on his body where they're just like, well, what were you doing to him? Where he literally had marks on his body. Like they called the man school because he would go to a school or something like that for people with disabilities. And they're just like, well, where is this coming from? And it turned out that it came from that lady. So she essayed this man so gruesomely that he had physical marks on his body. And my thing is, to the end of that interview, not one of those people called her what she was, which was an abuser.
Yeah.
Even the man who saw that she was lying because he was the opposing doctor, he said, I have no doubt in my mind that this woman truly believed that he was doing the talking, but she was a victim. So even though this woman was a full out rapist, because that's what she is, let's call her what she is, you still call this white woman an abuser, or excuse me, you still called her a victim.
Mm-hmm.
You still, every one of her, she still has her mother on her side. She still has the other expert witness on her side. Regardless of all of this, this woman is walking scot-free in a nice home like nothing ever happened. And now this man is forever changed and his brain is forever altered. They had to have him on medication and different stuff like that because he was starting to act out sexually after that, because there was things that he experienced that he never experienced before. So his whole functionality is completely altered by this. So through all of that, this woman was still deemed a victim when she was the abuser. And there's no way this happens like this when it comes to Black people. I saw in our local newspaper, not to know our local, little word of mouth thing, where a Black man who was accused of abusing animals that turned out to be false was given a $1.2 million bond. Now, they found out that there was no basis for the accusation. A white man who was accused and found to have child pornography was talking to a child where they caught him with multiple children, was given a bail of $120,000, and he made bail.
Well, that just proves right there that society, for one, a black man's life is not greater than a dog. And that this is a social phenomenon, especially with that documentary platform.
Mm-hmm.
They demonize the victims and they glorify the accused, the abuser. And I've seen this in this new generation, have seen this because of the way these documentaries, you're feeling some type of sympathy for the abuser, and they make their likeness and how sympathetic you want to be toward them instead of calling out for the truth. But just pan that situation in your mind, everything you said, and put the face on it. What if that was a white man and a black woman, or a black man, and they were abusing a white person? Your mind automatically would shift that person deserves.
They already did that. Didn't you see that nurse that they fired her, and I think she's looking at jail time because she just danced over a patient? She wasn't doing anything to him. Now, I'm not agreeing with the behavior because you're a medical professional. What the hell are you doing? But she was dancing over him in a suggestive tone. She was fired and immediately gone. This woman assaulted somebody, and it was clear evidence that she assaulted somebody, and was given a slap on the wrist with basically time served and let go. It's not basically. The bias is there. It's systematic. When white people do it, it's a mistake. When black people do it, they're demons. And I'm not condoning any violence on any side, but I'm trying to understand is you want the world to say, okay, well, the past is the past. Then why are you not going after everybody the same way?
Exactly.
Because it's definitely not a rich versus poor. Oh, she's never committed a crime. She committed the most egregious crime. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't even know. I'm dumbfounded because this happens all the time. I'm tired of it.
And it's rooted in America's history. Mm-hmm. And we have to think about it. Segregation and Jim Crow laws were just not even more than 50 something years ago. Oh yeah, 75 years, whatever. No, this is just still, this people of that generation are still alive.
No, there's still Jim Crow laws enacted in places like Alabama and stuff like that.
And that's when it was
like to this day.
They stopped that anti-lynching law, and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that was what, 20? Yeah, 20 what?
Century. It was a couple years ago.
Yeah, like 2021 or something like that.
Yeah. And there's no accountability.
None.
And that's the issue, because they're like, oh, why are black people still feeling like that there's racism? Just get over it. No, you can't get over it because you don't want to admit and look in the mirror and see what's going on and justify instead of justifying the issue. Mm-hmm. Getting to the root of the problem. And this is in the law, the people that have held the law. And it's sad because nobody seems that it is an issue. They automatically like, just get over it because it's uncomfortable.
We'll get over it when you stop doing it.
It's the conversation is uncomfortable because they don't want to face the truth.
Yeah. You're saying you're not racist, but your actions show otherwise. There are obviously people who say, oh, you're being racist, and it's not necessarily a racist thing. But I'm not a person that really likes to really add race into anything, honestly. Now that I'm adult, I call things where I see things. But if you want people to stop bringing up, then stop doing it. And then you have people coming over from other countries who say, oh, well, race is just a thing in America. But then you come over and act the exact same way.
Exactly. And this is so harmful because even with the distress of anybody, they take it and they prioritize it over the pain and the injustice that Black Americans have faced.
Mm-hmm. I'll get over it when you stop doing it. I'm not a fan of DEI, but my issue is, a lot of times people go in to get jobs and they didn't get the job based on their color. Like Black people have to think about what to name their kid in fear of getting a job. that's clearly racial bias. And it doesn't make a sense. It doesn't make sense. People shouldn't have to change their name to fit in. As long as I can do the job. And you're saying that there's no reasons for things like affirmative action. Well, obviously something had to make you stop and hire other people. Stop pretending that it's not a problem, and that if it was up to you guys, you would only hire your own kind. And all of y'all, all white people are not educated enough to be in the positions that there are. Hell, we're having this fight in the White House right now. There's a lot of people up there that are not qualified, but they got the job because basically white folks like to fake it till they make it. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but it's an issue when as an entire country that depends on you. You need to know what you're doing. Like, I'm over it. I'm done.
I agree. In closing remarks, I know you're going to close. I just want to say, with weaponizing the tears, it upholds white supremacy, which it leads to injustice. And I know that people saying it's just tears, it's whatever. No, when you're meaning weaponizing, when you use it to target individuals that don't look like you and use that power over them, it's a problem. And how do we change this? We need to change societies, the way we think, the way we see things. We need to hold people accountable for their actions. Instead of just making a police report, there should be a crime against that for lying. Because if you didn't believe in the truth, there wouldn't be laws. There wouldn't be when you go to put your hand on the stand and say, you swear to tell the truth if you didn't care about the truth.
They don't care about the truth.
That's all I have to say.
All I'm going to say is this. Like I always say, do unto others, as you would want to yourself. And we're absolutely tired of talking about race, but we are also tired of it being a factor in our everyday life, in our everyday breath. I don't want to be followed around the store when I have just as much money as everybody else. I don't want to think that somebody is being racist. I can't wait to the point where that's the last thing that I think about when I go somewhere. So if you don't want people to stop bringing up race, then stop doing the racist stuff. So with that being said, bye.
Bye.
To hear more from Millennial Intent, hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to tell a friend.